You have the power to save the entire human race.
Today on Hampton Roads Business Weekly, bringing Hollywood to Hampton Roads. I talk with the owner of a movie studio located right in downtown Norfolk.
And I talk with the head of a Peninsula-based incubator providing counseling, mentorship, and services for new businesses and startups. Hampton Roads Business Weekly starts now. Hello and welcome. I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Cheryl Tan. This is Hampton Roads Business Weekly, a weekly look at the businesses and entrepreneurs making an impact right here in Hampton Roads.
We want to hear from you. So if you have questions or comments during the show, tweet us at HRBizWeekly.
So this week we wrap up our series on morale, and we want to focus on retaining employees, keeping good employees from moving on to other jobs. It doesn't always require fancy perks and benefit packages.
I spoke with Mary Jo Bouchard, an organizational consultant and Regent University alum. We talked about the secret to retaining employees and how it can be as simple as keeping them happy. All right, Mary Jo, I have a company. I got a couple employees and I want to make sure that they stick around for a while. What can I do to make sure that they stay around? My guess is you're going to say something along the lines of catered lunches, taking them to the amusement park, but your face is starting to tell me that I'm going down the wrong path.
Sure.
What do you think?
Well, I think that's the typical thing that people expect, that in order to keep somebody they need to have a huge benefit package or high pay or those sort of things. But really, statistically, one of the biggest things that keeps somebody in a place is that they get to bring their whole selves into that workplace. People need to be seen as who they are. They're not just a job description with legs. Otherwise, we'd have robots that would.
So not a number on the wall.
Right.
Basically, it's this is my personality. You're getting every piece to it. That's why you're bringing me on.
Yeah, and we're body, soul, spirit, emotions, all of that stuff. And a lot of times, people have the old school way of thinking was leave your personal life at home. And business is business. And the problem with that is when we disintegrate who we are, we also leave our passion at the door. And when we can't bring, and when there's no room to talk about the things that excite and inspire us, then as an employer, you're not going to have any room to figure out how to connect that inspiration into and channel it into the productivity of the workplace.
How does the boss think that through, though? So if I am the boss and I have 4 employees, a lot of people would say that the whole self is a distraction. So how do I allow and bring that in to actually be a positive instead of a negative? That's
a really great question. I think one of the things that people can do from the beginning is take time. It doesn't take a lot of time, but take time at the beginning when you first are getting to know your people. Find out their story, find out their narrative, find out what they're passionate about, and make sure that you understand what motivates them, because it probably isn't just the money. Statistically, the big 3, according to Dan Pink, the big 3 motivators for people are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So you need to find out where they want to have that autonomy, what they're trying to be able to have some decision-making room, what they want to master, what they feel like they are good at, and what you can help them to grow in. But the big part that is often missing is that purpose part. What is significant to them? If you can't give them more money, if you can't give them a huge benefit package, but you can, for example, some organizations say if you get all of your work done, then you can set aside X amount of time to be creative in your field. Find a problem and try to solve it.
Right.
I'll give you resources, that sort of thing.
Say the Google 20% rule, where you get a day a week to try something out, and a lot of companies, that kind of side feature has become one of their biggest business models. So how does a company figure out what the purpose is for that person? They just ask them, or how do you kind of see the purpose go about?
That's a good question too. I think people make it so much harder than it needs to be. Don't give them a survey. Don't make them fill out a bunch of paperwork to try and figure out what their purpose is. Just listen to them. If you start listening to people's story, even if you just do it once, there's so much that you can learn from hearing people's stories. People are desperate to tell their stories. People are desperate to be heard.
So someone would say, it's not just listening though, it's about listening and then doing something with it. How do they take it to that next step?
Yes, the next question that they need to be asking is, how can I help you? What do I have? And whether they're asking it out loud at the beginning or they're just making notes, and that's kind of how they're filtering the story, they need to be thinking about, okay, this is what motivates this person. Whether it is autonomy, how can I find ways to make this person more autonomous in the areas that I can? If it's mastery, what do I have inside of me that I can give them to be able to master something? And then purpose, what do I have that I can give them to help them to be channeling their passions?
Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Awesome three. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Coming up on Hampton Roads Business Weekly, from Blue Power Ranger to studio owner, I talk with Michael Copon about his movie studio in downtown Norfolk. But first, a brand new Zac Hack.
Look, I know we're all busy. I'm very busy myself. But we have to turn off our notifications if we really want our schedules to go the way we want. Oftentimes, we'll be at a meeting and we'll be looking at our phone and we'll receive a message or we'll receive a call. And it's not really that urgent, but it takes us away from the task at hand. This week's Zac Hack is to turn off your notifications so that you can focus on the task at hand. If you want your schedule to be better, or if you want to be more focused on something, turn off the notifications that don't matter. You might not need that email. You might not need that cell phone call. You might not need that text message. Or maybe you start getting ESPN app alerts. All of them are a disease to your day. So if you want your day to go more as planned, remove the notifications from you. That's this week's Zac Hack. If you want more information, head on over to startwithhatch.com.
The global biological clock is ticking against us.
Humanity is on the verge of extinction. There is no children. There is no cure. There is no hope.
Welcome back to Hampton Roads Business Weekly and the one thing entrepreneurs do that lead to their success. We are so excited to talk with Michael Copon, actor, director, producer, and now entrepreneur. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, thank you.
People may recognize you from Power Rangers, One Tree Hill, and Bring It On, among many others.
That's right.
So you started out as an actor, and now you're an entrepreneur. Talk about that journey. How did you end up being behind the camera when you started out in front of it?
Well, you know, going out to LA wasn't really a planned thing anyways. I was a football player my whole life, had a full ride to go play at various colleges. And in the year 2000, I went out to LA to start modeling. And then 8 months later, I became the Blue Power Ranger on TV. And then through that, I thought, wow, this is pretty easy. But 4 years and 1,482 auditions later, hearing the word no, I finally get on a show called One Tree Hill. And that kind of ignited my career to a different level. And then from that point on, I'm the type of guy that I have to know more. So acting it just wasn't enough for me. Even though I took time to study the Meisner technique for 2 years and really got serious with that, I also was learning the behind-the-scenes work that was going on, like film gaffering and DP work, and you know, all the technical side of filmmaking. So,
how did you then make that decision as you were learning about lighting and gaffering and all of the behind-the-scenes stuff? How did you take that into one day, I'm going to do something on my own? Well,
that's a good question, because I was on One Tree Hill that's shot in Wilmington, and there was a studio out there called Screen Gems, and I was like, wow, this is like really cool. It's like a big studio in a small country town like my hometown. And I was like, you know what, one day I want to have my own studio. So, well, in 2012, my sister had a baby. That's really what brought me back home.
Nice.
That and numerous other things. And I thought, hey, this might be the time that I can take where my career is right now and start a business that is something I love to do, which is, you know, filmmaking. From that point on, I just figured out the steps, and then I started my studio in my mom's garage, and then went from like Virginia Beach to Chesapeake to now Norfolk here.
So your company does the A to Z of a full-length feature film, from the writing to the casting, the acting, and the post-production. What's the climate been like for a studio like yours here in the city of Norfolk?
You know, I think what I'm doing right now, in my opinion, I don't think really has been done before in terms of birthing a studio and that focuses on Hollywood productions, like Hollywood full feature films, and starting it from A to Z. So we're not a company from LA that's coming here to film and trying to take advantage of the tax incentive. That's not us. I mean, everyone that's on my crew is from here. Some of them are born here, but they've been living here. So it's been, from A to Z, been birthed from Virginia.
It's pretty cool that this talent all starts and finishes in Hampton Roads.
Yeah, it's crazy. And when you say about the climate, for me as a filmmaker, it's easier here because, you know, in LA, to get a diner, for instance, you know, it's sometimes $5,000–6,000 a day to rent a diner. If you want to even block out a street, I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in the downtown LA district. I mean, here the city's been working with me because they know the potential of what could happen if I'm bringing a $7 million film here and that money being poured into our economy. A filmmaking business, it spreads money everywhere because you're building a world, so you need the world. So it's a great way to grow economy, and I think the city sees that. And so for Virginia, I think it's been, in terms of that aspect, the city's been awesome.
The segment is called The One Thing. So what would you say is the one thing that has led to your success?
I think the one thing that has led to my success is passion. And that goes around because the people follow me for my passion and what I love to do. And I think my passion as well is what drives me to keep waking up every morning at 5, you know, and I go to bed every day at midnight. I don't sleep much. I can't sleep, really. It's like I have a really bad time sleeping because my brain just doesn't stop. So it's the passion that keeps me awake, and it's the passion that keeps me pushing forward, and it's the passion that keeps people following me on this vision and goal. And I think this passion is going to turn Virginia into a whole nother place in the next 5 years, and I hope to be one of those people that's bringing $100 to $300 million worth of productions here and rising this economy back up to where it should be.
Very, very exciting. Michael Copon, thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Welcome back to Hampton Roads Business Weekly. We're here with Tim Ryan at the Launchpad, one of the resources we've talked about for several months on Hampton Roads Business Weekly. Tim, tell us a little bit about the Launchpad and why this resource is so important for other entrepreneurs in the area.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zach. One of the things about the Launchpad is that we bring the resources and the procedures that startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses need in order to start, grow, and succeed in their business.
So a lot of people would say that the context of the director, which you are, is important, that they've been there before. And so you got out of the military, thank you for your service, a few years back and started a company called ARC4. How does what you learned from ARC4 equate into more success in you giving advice and running the Launchpad here?
Well, one of the big things is, as a startup myself, I was in the trenches. I understood exactly the pain points that the startups that are in the Launchpad experience, and quite frankly, I know the positive and I know the negative, and I've been able to learn from those negatives, identify what trouble areas that startups may have, and I can work with them. So just being really understanding of what they've experienced, I can help them move forward.
What are the resources that someone could expect to get here at the Launchpad?
And that's one of the things that I'm really, really proud about with the Launchpad, is that the education component and the mentoring component are two things that we really put a lot of focus on to differentiate ourselves. We have a growing list of mentors that come into this space all the time, and they're there to work with the residents of the incubator.
So mentorship is a huge thing. A lot of people in town talk about, not just in the Hampton Roads area, but nationally and globally. What is a mentor, and how do you kind of validate them to make sure that they're a good resource and source for the companies that you guys house here?
Well, one of the first things that I do is I sit down and I have a one-on-one conversation with anyone that wants to step forward to become a mentor.
So if someone submits an application, says, I'm interested in being a mentor, or you meet someone at a meeting and they said, oh, you know, I am interested in potentially mentoring, so then you sit down with them.
Correct.
Okay, next step.
After that, then I listen to them. I want to hear their story. I want to hear about them, what they've done in their past, what their successes were, and really what their motivating factor is to become a mentor. As a director of the incubator and working with the residents of the incubator, they're really in a very vulnerable position. And what a mentor says or suggests to them, chances are they're going to listen. So
It's important.
It is.
Yeah. By surrounding yourself by a lot of entrepreneurs like you do in here, what are some of the best tips that you hear that they use or that you use to get through their day-to-day struggles?
I mean, honestly, I think that one of the biggest things that we've learned is through failure. And you don't, when you win, and if you were to win all the time, you really don't learn anything from that. And every no that you hear is one step closer to a yes. But we take a look at that no and we find out why. Why did that person say no? How can we tweak what we're doing? How do we adjust? And how do we plan for the next time we propose something?
So really taking the data point of a no,
Correct.
the data point of a yes, and analyzing it and digging deeper to figure out why this thing happened, and figuring out if there's a way to make a no a yes, or to make sure that those yeses don't turn into nos. One of the things that I personally want to give to the show is examples of real life experiences, and business, you know, is basically just business, but there are things that people have to go through as the entrepreneurs that can be difficult. Let's talk a little bit about the emotional side of this, and why it's important to have people similar to each other be in a space together from the emotional angle, and how that helps them get through not only the good but also the bad.
Well, that's one of the things that we put a lot of time and effort into with the Launchpad. We wanted a space that was very open, very collaborative, and we wanted people to get out of their office so that we can talk to one another. And one thing that we always share about entrepreneurism is that the highs are really high and the lows are really, really low. And we're there to work with one another, and we're able to cheer each other on during a high, but we're also to pull people up when they're experiencing that low.
Tim, thanks for your time today. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Zach.
Take care.
Welcome back to Hampton Roads Business Weekly, here with Cheryl Owens, the CEO of Labs to Go. You started off as a phlebotomist, so basically you would meet people and ask them to open up and you draw blood from them, and you turn that into a business. How did you make that transition, and why?
I saw a need. I was working for a doctor's office, and a lady needed to have her potassium rechecked because it was extremely high. And the doctor was like, she needs to get back in here right away. And she had no transportation. The only transportation was her son, who was at work until 4. So I was like, okay, I can just really go help this lady. And I packed up everything I needed, drove to her home, drew her blood, brought it back to the lab, and good enough, her potassium was actually normal. But the light bulb came on at that time. It was like, there's so many people out there who needs this type of service. And so Labs to Go was created.
And really, you were just solving a problem you saw in your own workplace as an employee.
Absolutely.
How did that transition to being the boss come about, and how did that start for you?
Well, one, I knew I always wanted to be my own boss. I went to school for business as well. So what I did was I just took everything I learned in the medical field, which included phlebotomy, which included drug testing, which included vaccinations, and on, and I pretty much made it into one. So that's what makes Labs to Go so unique, because of the services we provide and our business model.
I know you said you started in your house,
Right.
so a room over the garage, is that what she said?
Yes, that's what it was.
And so you would handle all of your operations from that room, and then you'd go out and work with doctor's offices, insurance companies, and go to people's homes?
It was just, we were doing paramedical exams for life insurance agents, and once it got overwhelming where I couldn't handle it on my own, I started hiring. So once I started hiring and then it started getting overwhelming even more, I just pretty much said, okay, now it's time to get a brick and mortar, you know, and take it from my room over my garage to an actual office, because I felt like it also built credibility. You know, we built great reputation being mobile and providing a service that was unheard of, but then to actually have a walk-in location plus mobile at the same time, and then I also love the fact to give others jobs, you know, so we do that. We take in interns. We are actually showing, you know, interns how to be great phlebotomists, great medical assistants. So it's all about I just love what I do.
I know that you studied business, so you knew you wanted to go into business for yourself.
Yes.
How different was it to actually put those things in practice? What have some of the challenges been that you faced over the last few years?
The challenges would be, because the business is unique, is pretty much building trust. You know, it's trust, because everyone's so used to the big name companies, you know, laboratories and things of that sort, because that's what they're used to. So it was all about building trust, you know, where we had to get people to say, okay, this is really legit. Okay, they're standing on our word, because we're saving individuals time and money. We're getting results back to them just as if they're going to the big labs, if not even sooner, you know. And the doctors love us because they're able to monitor their patient's health the way they want, because we provide in-home blood draws without them ever having to go to the lab. You know, so we're providing a service that is just awesome.
Cheryl Owens, now that you're at 2 locations,
yes,
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
That wraps up another edition of Hampton Roads Business Weekly. You can like us on Facebook and Instagram at HR Business Weekly.
There, you will find segments from previous shows, plus some great behind-the-scenes pictures and videos. For Hampton Roads Business Weekly, I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Cheryl Tan. We'll see you next week.
Hampton Roads Business Weekly, sponsored by Regent University and produced by ABC 13.